All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for our coffee talk. We're really excited to have you guys all here. Um, this is a coffee talk that is super casual, and we just wanted to discuss different areas of just leading a healthy lifestyle through the perspectives of other people and all around the world, basically, called the Blue Zones. However, before we get started, I did want to introduce myself. My name is Christine Castillo. I'm a dietetic intern with Utah State University. Um, I am currently working with Skinny Jean as one of my dietetic rotations. And just a little bit about myself. I have a passion for community nutrition. I've been volunteering my whole life, here in San Diego and Los Angeles. And, it's just led me to grow this love for people. And, I realized that it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, everyone needs to eat. So I felt like we can make a really large impact with focusing on nutrition and just basically empowering people of the community with the resources that they need and skills they need to lead healthier lifestyles. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and get started with our presentation today. Again, it's overall about community and just overall health and how community and nutrition can impact your life and your longevity and your happiness. So just moving forward here, question that people always like ask themselves are, what makes you live longer? And genetics is something that always comes up when it comes to this question. And so what percentage do you think our genes would have on our overall lifespan? So actually only about 20% of how long the average person lives is dictated by our genes, whereas the other 80% is dictated by our lifestyle. So those are a pretty significant percentages there that tells us that most of our health and how long we are going to live is actually not dictated by our genes, but how we lead our lives. So just kind of looking, just thinking about all of this, you think how long, like why do some people live longer? Why do people live to be 100? And it's interesting here in the United States, what the average lifespan for us here is about 78 years old. And breaking it down a little bit more, women 81 years old, men 76 years old. And comparing these numbers to other countries, unfortunately, we're not at the top of the list here. United States is actually one of the more unhealthier countries. And part of this notion is, the way we're dying. Unfortunately, there was an analysis done by the Commonwealth Fund that's, they did an analysis of 11 countries, and the US actually was found to be spending way more on healthcare, but we also have the lowest life expectancy, and we also have higher suicide rates. So again, very significant numbers and facts to think about. And one of the things that is a significant factor to this is chronic disease. And so chronic disease is a disease that lasts more than a year and requires ongoing medical attention and does unfortunately limit our activities for daily life. So in the United States, our top 5 chronic diseases are heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So more than 2/3 actually of all deaths are caused by one or more of these 5 chronic diseases. So this is why our stats and our comparisons to other countries are lower, because something we're doing, how we're leading our lives, just eventually lead us to one of these five chronic diseases. However, there are people around the world that do not have or share these same statistics, and they're called the blue zones. So the blue zones refer to 5 different regions around the world. So 5 different regions around the world that were discovered by Dan Buettner. He's a National Geographic author, and he's also the founder of the Blue Zones LLC. However, the Blue Zones refer to a term of places around the world that have the highest concentration of centenarians, so people that live to be 100 and up. So Dan Buettner, and a team of demographers, scientists, epidemiologists, researchers, anthropologists, they went around and studied these 5 areas to see why. Why are people living the longest in these particular areas? And the 5 regions are Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, Loma Linda, California, here in the US, and Nicoya, Costa Rica, and lastly, IKARIA, Greece. So they found that in these 5 places, people were reaching to the age of 100 10 times greater, 10 times greater rates than here in the United States. And so kind of just to go more specific to what they found, the first region was actually Sardinia, Italy. And not all of Sardinia, but the highlands of Sardinia. So this is Sardinia is off the coast of Italy, and it is known to be an area of the world with the longest living men. And traditionally, they've always been a community of shepherds, and they are just constantly just naturally moving through their city because they're herding sheep, their cattle, they're walking up hills. They found that they're walking at least 5 miles or more, just herding their sheep. They also found that in Sardinia, the people there only mostly eat plant-based. The meat that they do eat is grass-fed. Grass-fed, they're out in the mountains. But because they're grass-fed, this is very important because they're also making cheeses and drinking dairy products from these grass-fed meats. These animals are producing healthier dairy products. And when they do eat meat, they're not eating meat like we do. They eat meat more on like special occasions, 4 times a month, maybe on the weekends. Another interesting thing that they found is they have a happy hour. So Sardinians like to meet up with other people, and they like to drink wine. They also make a lot of wine, and Kananawa wine is the specialty there. And this is very a special wine because similar to other red wines, it was found to have a high level of polyphenols, which are good for our immune system. So they're not only, tasting and drinking wine with their friends and family, but they also are drinking a version of wine that is healthier. And they're also not, over consuming as well. And lastly, another thing they found was the Sardinians celebrate their elderly. And so this is an important factor that Buettner and his team found. They revered the elderly. If you were older, you are wiser. They tended to keep their elderly close to them all the time. So their grandparents either live with them or they live very close to them. And their scientists found that because of this, they were adding at least 4 to 6 more years to their life. And in addition, it also has benefited the children. And so they are just seeing overall lower rates of disease and mortality rates. And they call it the grandmother effect, actually. The second blue zone was Okinawa, Japan. And this was found to be the home of the longest living women in the world. Again, mostly plant-based diet here, full of stir-fried vegetables, a really big root vegetables, actually sweet potato, a high consumption of sweet potato, and also a high consumption of tofu. So they are eating 8 times more tofu than we are, which is also pretty significant because tofu is made out of soy, and soy has been found to be a very, very nutritious alternative to meat. So high protein, low carb, and also really healthy fats. So if you guys have heard of the mono unsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, those are the fats that are good for us. So they lower our cholesterol levels and also have been found to lower a lot of blood sugar. So really good for people with diabetes. Another thing they found was they have a mantra in Okinawa, and I know it says hara hachibu, but it's actually pronounced hala hachibu. And this is a Confucius mantra that all Okinawans say before they eat, which essentially means to eat up to 80% full. So this is like a strategy that Okinawans have to not overconsume. They also are eating off smaller plates. They're serving the food on the counters. People go get their food, they serve themselves, they put away the food, and then they go eat. So just little things like that that are a little bit strategic as opposed to, just bigger plates and a lot of, American style restaurant kind of plates. Another thing Buettner found was a philosophy that the Okinawans have called an ikigai. So ikigai basically means translates to the reason why you wake up every morning. So the Okinawans have a purpose, and this is something that helps them with their day to day. And lastly, another tradition that's actually my favorite and that I loved within my research within the Blue Zones is the Okinawans established a moai, and a moai is a social network, a commitment that the kids are put into starting at the age of 5. And this is a tradition that basically secured a kind of a little best friend clique. And it's a network, it's a social network that provides, emotional support, financial support. So basically, they always have someone there for them from 5 years old till the rest of their lives. And Buettner found a Moai that has been together for 97 years. So this is just an example of some moais of just people getting together, just talking, just eating. On the right, that's an elderly pop band. So this is, again, just a very unique tradition that they practice, that Buettner found that helps and attributes to their longevity. And then going back home to California, to the US, Loma Linda, which is in Riverside County, this is the community of Seventh-day Adventists. So Seventh-day Adventist, if for those of you who don't know, they are a Christian-based faith, and unique. What makes them unique about other, as opposed in contrast to other Christian faiths, is they follow the Jewish calendar. So they celebrate their Sabbath on Saturday as opposed to Sunday. They strictly follow the Old and New Testament. And specifically, they follow the plant-based diet of the Old Testament. And actually, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and not everyone is vegetarian, but I'll tell you right now, I didn't grow up eating a lot of meat. And so they again have mostly a plant-based diet. So full of leafy greens, nuts, legumes, they're very plant-based forward. They also celebrate a 24-hour day of rest. So on Saturday, which is Sabbath, this is a time where all you do is just hang out with your family, with your friends. You don't talk about work. You don't go, a lot of people, conservative ones, they don't even go to the store. It's all about just resting and being with the ones you love, and just surrounding yourselves again with other Adventists, which they found that helps influence and support all of their healthy lifestyles, including nature walks. So nature walks is another aspect of just natural movement that Adventists partake in. And I could tell you that I went on a lot of nature walks, very relaxing. And again, you're in nature, so it's a beautiful time. Interesting fact that Buettner and his team found was comparing Adventist Americans to non-Adventist Americans. The Adventist women average 89 years of age, and Adventist men average to live 87 years of age. So, kind of recalling back to the statistics we talked about earlier, definitely significant in almost 10 years for men and women. So, moving forward to Nicoya, Costa Rica. So, this is the fourth blue zone, and this is a culture that emphasizes a lot on family and faith. So they take care of their family. They, worship and their faith on a particular day. Very, very important community here. They have a similar philosophy like the Okinawans do. They call it plan de vida. So this is another purpose-driven philosophy. So translated means reason to live, and this is something that the elderly there maintain just to keep a positive outlook and an active lifestyle. Another attribute is little to no processed foods. They also consume a lot of tropical fruits there, which are high in antioxidants, and again, mostly a plant-based diet. And their water was studied as well. Their water has very high levels of calcium and magnesium. So this already decreases the risk of heart disease and promotes stronger bones. Um, so they found that Nicoyans spend 15% of what Americans pay on healthcare. So, and are twice as likely to reach 90 years old. So very, very different from what we're spending on healthcare. So just lastly, we're going to move on to the last blue zone, which is IKARIA, Greece. So this is a tiny island off the Aegean Sea. The Ikarians, they are known to eat Mediterranean diet, which most of you might have heard of. So they lead a stricter version of the Mediterranean diet. So basically less fish, less just overall consumption of meat, but still high in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, potatoes, that olive oil. They also garden a lot. They garden a lot of herbs. And with these herbs, they make tea. And Buettner and his team found that they were drinking tea every day. So the team sent all these herbs um, to the University of Athens just to kind of study a little bit more of the nutrient content of the herbs. And they found that the herbs were not only anti-inflammatory, but they also were a type of mild diuretics. And diuretics have been known to help with high blood pressure. So they keep your blood pressure low. They also help your kidneys get rid of sodium. They keep your arteries clean. So just easier way for your blood to flow out of naps. So they also give themselves time to rest. When they're not resting, they're walking around, and they live in like a mountainous village. So they're just not walking around, they're walking uphill and they're walking downhill. Village living. So this here is basically a type of life where the community expect them to be involved. So they expect them to go to village festivals, go to church, go to any celebrations, or they'll go knocking on your door being like, why aren't you at so-and-so's party? So these 5 places that Buettner and his team studied, they found 9 significant commonalities, and they called them the power of 9. So moving naturally, having a purpose, giving yourself time to downshift, an 80% rule, so not overeating, plant slants, so mostly plant-based, wine at 5, so getting together, having a little bit of a happy hour, right tribe, So picking the people that support you, loved ones, they emphasize family and friends. And then also take to the Adventist, like I told you, I can tell you that firsthand. And then a sense of belonging, loved ones first, and the having a right tribe. I wanted to take a look a little bit more of the nutrition and compare the blue zone diet to the American diet. So the blue zone diet predominantly is plant-based. They eat a lot of legumes, a lot of legumes. So legumes are beans, lentils. They eat with family and friends. They don't really smoke. They eat whole grains, not much processed grains. They drink alcohol in moderations. And their diets are very similar to the Mediterranean and DASH diet. And those two diets are used to treat disease here in our country, in the US. The American diet has more processed foods, high saturated fats, a lot more sodium, so a lot more salt, not many fruits and vegetables. We eat a lot of meat on a daily basis. We have a lot of added sugars to our beverages or our just foods. And we tend to eat a lot, so high calorie food consumption. And then because we're so busy, we eat most of our meals alone. You know, here's a little bit more of a breakdown if we wanted to look into specific food groups of each diet. I'm going to go ahead and move on, however, and just kind of ask the question, like, why do we eat alone? This is a really important question to ask ourselves, because there has been studies um, on just solitude. And there were studies done, they're called the Framingham studies. They say that smoking, obesity, happiness, and even loneliness are contagious. Eating alone is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. And having a social network favors healthy behaviors, contributes to our longevity. And people in these blue zones, they are not going at it alone. They have that community, and it indirectly and directly supports their health. Kind of just more research, the University of Oxford, they looked at the link of eating and an individual's happiness, the number of friends they have, and their connection to the community, and their overall satisfaction with life. They actually found that communal eating, so eating with other people, increases bonding, social bonding, and feelings of well-being, and actually enhances one's senses contentedness and embedding within the community. So basically, eating socially makes you feel better about yourself, and having a wider social network just gives you an overall just support of emotion, and just an overall social support. So just looking at our lifestyle, we drive a lot, especially here in California. We tend to sit in traffic a lot. And, I just posed some questions here just so we can think about them. But, think about how much time you actually spent in traffic. We tend to sit down a lot. So whether it's at the office, or, how much time are we spending watching Netflix, or just browsing on our phones, working on at school on our computers. We work long hours. We don't have siestas here. We work 40 hours a week, or sometimes we have overtime. So ask yourself how much you work. We're always busy. We always have to-do lists. I can tell you myself, I have a to-do list every day, and my to-do list is impossible to complete, but I still make it. And a lot of our society is wealth driven. So think about, our rat race, I call it, or that the term has been used before, right? A society that cares a lot about, spending our money more on, like, the newest car, the newest iPhone, newest clothes. And again, we do tend to isolate ourselves. We don't say hi to our neighbors. We kind of, if we see somebody we know, we don't necessarily just go straight up to them and ask them how they're doing. Again, how often do we eat alone because we're so busy? Do we live with our grandparents like, the Blue Zone citizens do? And then we're stressed. Ask yourself, how stressed are you? Are you continuously stressed? So what solutions do we have? What can we do to help alleviate some of our societal problems, some of our lifestyle characteristics? And basically, the solutions are a combination of healthy habits. So we can take a lot of these healthy habits that the Blue Zones have and have a natural movement. So think about, what can you do? Just a couple things that you could do at home to add some sort of natural movement. So whether it's serving food on the counter for people to serve themselves, taking the stairs instead of elevators, going outside, maybe nature walking, gardening, bird watching, or just going out with friends, joining a community sport, having a purpose. So ask yourself what you want in life. There are activities you can do, and you can reflect and meditate, write down your values, what you think your life philosophy is, or think about what you used to love when you were a kid, what you wanted to be. Downshifting. So how can we downshift? Ask yourself, what relaxes you? This is all about self-care, and we don't do this enough, but taking a break from your normal, busy, hectic life. So whether it's a manicure, a pedicure, a mani-pedi, or just going on a walk, spending time with friends, taking a nap, or, making a quick call. We can pay attention to our food, how we eat. So our 80% rule, and, whether we want to say a mantra, like the Okinawans do, or just choosing smaller plates, but also that plant slant. So maybe we can start with just like 2 days a week. Can I not eat meat these 2 days a week? And kind of focus on more fruits and vegetables. So the wine at 5, this is more about what's the meaning of wine at 5. The Italians, the Sardinians, they are drinking wine, yes. And I'm not saying go start drinking wine, but what does it mean? They are getting together and just socializing. And if you do drink wine, just drink it in moderation, just like they do. And then belonging to something. So getting involved in the community is a great way we can do this. And, if you have a church, getting involved in their events, or getting involved in your school or your children's school. Loved ones first. So again, just trying to remember to call or hang out with family or friends, and try to plan it out at least like once a month, maybe move on to a week. But just remember to think about them and make time for them. And then lastly, having a right tribe. So here's just choosing to surround yourself with people that have similar values, and people that will support you and influence you to continue what you want to do, what you love to do. So just kind of final thoughts here. Think about who you care about, who you want to spend time with, even if they exist yet or not. But just, it's just important to note that what we eat, yes, does play a big role in our health over time. We know this. We talk about nutrition all the time. I, am passionate about that. But remember that how we eat and who we spend time with also contributes to our longevity and our happiness. So just remembering that having that community will lead you to having a long and healthy life and happy life. So that's it. Those are just the final thoughts there. And again, it's all about having that combination of just healthy characteristics and lives, and healthy characteristics for our life. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine.